There's tourist Egypt, the tourist bubble, and then there's living in Egypt. And let's just say that not all the glitters is gold. I'm Anyextee, welcome into my home. All right, so today is April 27th, 2022. It's been about 4 months. We moved here in January 2022. And so we want to make this video because people have questions. They want to know what it's like to live in Egypt, specifically what it's like as American expats living in Luxor. And we're here living in the village of Bayrat. Bayrat is located here in the West Bank of Luxor. We're just 5 minutes to the Nile River. I'm standing on my rooftop here. In the background, we have the Valley of the Kings. So that's where I'm living in Egypt. So Karina, what do you think, what are some of the questions that people want to know about living in Luxor?
I think a lot of the basic questions would be about expenses,
How much does it cost to live in Egypt?
food,
What do we eat here and how much does it even cost?
and how to get around.
Okay, so now we just have to find a ride.
A lot of people live in flats, and that could range anywhere from $100 to maybe $300 USD per month.
The main two ways if you're going to settle down and establish residency in Egypt, you're either going to be renting a flat, which is essentially like an apartment in the States.
A flat is an apartment. You know, in America, you know, we say apartment. Yeah, and like the apartments here are extremely nice. But a lot of these places, you know, blow you away. Just the appliances that are there, and then also the space. In America, you'd be living in a rat hole for that type of money. We're living in a house, and the reason why we chose the house, one of the big major reasons, I would say number one, was for privacy. We found the house through a real estate agent, and the house is $700 USD per month.
Right, so that is about 13,000 Egyptian pounds. But now, in the States, in America, you would be lucky to find a one-bedroom apartment in a not-so-decent neighborhood for $700 USD. Here, we get all of this. What do we have here, Karina?
The house has 5 bedrooms, it has a library, it has a dining room, it has a kitchen, it has 2 living rooms, it has a rooftop terrace, and each room has its own balcony, 2 restrooms, and one of them is Moroccan style. And we have 2 gardens, back and front, so it's a pretty big place. It's a villa actually. I think I enjoy the house because it's peaceful. I don't know, it kind of just adds to the sleepiness of the West Bank. Even inside the house has its own peace to it that, you know, just kind of enhances what the land already brings.
Well, you know, you have this really rich historic culture of ancient sites, tombs and temples all around us, monumental architecture, the whole world, everyone's eyes are on Egypt, and to just have all of that right here in your backyard. I mean, we're 5 minutes away from the Colossus of Memnon, 8 to 10 minutes from Hatshepsut's temple, Deir el-Bahari, and then Deir el-Medina. We could just get a motorboat for $1.50 US, go across the River Nile to the East Bank and be at the Luxor Temple or Karnak. So it's really amazing to have all of that right here, right around us.
Another pro is that you're on sacred land. I mean, all land is sacred. But here, you have the sacred temple so close to you that if you choose, when you wake up, you could literally be at any of these sites in 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, depending on where you want to go. Many of us have lost connections with these sacred sites because we don't have the modality of getting there in America. Sometimes you have to, you know, go to a different state, rent cars, or, you know, pay for hotels. things of that nature, and it gets very expensive to do that, all the time. Here, if you want to do it the next day, the day after that, whatever, you just wake up and you do it. I think that's a privilege for us.
So what are some of the other expenses that we have to deal with living here in Egypt? Aside from the rent, we also have to pay the bills. So the bills, the utilities, just like in America, sometimes they're included, sometimes they're not. In our case, the utilities are not included. The electric bill, we suspect, isn't going to be that much based on our experience and knowing other local people. I mean, some people are paying the equivalent of 15 to 30 US dollars a month. Maybe that's even too much. I think the electricity is usually around the equivalent, maybe 15 US dollars.
Yeah.
And if you did want to get a phone here, it's relatively inexpensive to have a mobile phone and even a landline. I'm still currently using my AT&T phone plan from America. It's the long distance unlimited plan, and so that's covered. But we also need the internet, and that's actually one of the reasons why I haven't been posting as many videos. Aside from the fact we've been traveling a lot and just haven't had time, the internet here in Egypt, specifically the upload speed, is very slow. So it can be challenging. Sometimes I'm waiting hours on end to upload a video. When we first moved here, we were using a landline with the homeowner's phone. Now we're using a hotspot. That was through a company called We. Now we're using Vodafone. It is connected to the homeowner's account, and we're using a hotspot, which gives us as much data as we want to pay for in a single month. So those are the basic bills. You have your rent, you have your electricity, your water bill. One of the other things a lot of people ask us is what we do for food. What we eat here, how we eat here, how our usual diet, say back in America, has been affected by eating here. What do we eat here in Luxor?
Well, I mean, I think that we started off by eating a lot of carbs, bread, like peanut butter sandwiches, pastas, what else?
I mean, it's definitely been challenging because in the States, we're really health conscious. For me, I'm mostly having a plant-based diet with occasionally eating some meat. But like you said, that's all shifted to carbs, and I'm even eating more dairy now, which I don't really eat a lot of dairy back in the States. But there's not a lot of food choices because there is local bacteria here. The locals are used to it, most foreigners are not, and you have to be very selective because that bacteria is on a lot of the vegetation. So we don't have as much salads and fruits as we typically would back in the States.
People usually tell you, and even the websites tell you, to stay away from fruits and uncooked vegetables, things of that nature. But we just recently went on a trip to Siwa, and I ate the salads, I ate the fruit, which I can't really do in Cairo or Luxor. But there are certain parts of Egypt that have clean vegetables, clean fruits, are super health conscious. But again, it's just what parts you're in. They also, like, people here have to struggle with clean water, things like that. Well, I think a lot of people, when they come on tours with you, they're used to eating at the big restaurants, or restaurants that you already pick out that they're safe.
Right. These are well curated, top of the line. Essentially, when you come on our tours via ADEPT Expeditions, you're eating nothing but the best from the best restaurants. But this is actually important to distinguish because there's two sides to Egypt. There's the tourist side, or what I call the tourist bubble, and then there's living in Egypt. And so our experience now is living in Egypt, and that differs from the people who actually live here, the locals, because that in itself is its own experience. We're not speaking on behalf of the people who live here, we're speaking from the experience of expats living in Egypt, as foreigners, transplants that are here. And so we had to make some serious adjustments moving here for the food because there is bacteria in some of the food that locals, their immune system is already used to. We're not used to it. And so, we have to be very selective when we're eating vegetables in the village, lettuce, tomatoes, etc. I know for me, it's been a significant life change because I consider myself a health conscious person. When I was back home in America, I was mostly eating largely a plant-based diet with some meat here and there, where here in Egypt, because we're not eating as many vegetables, because I'm not too fond of a lot of the meats, we're eating more carbs and dairy, things that I typically wouldn't eat back in America. What are the options for preparing meals at home? Where do you get your food from?
We get our food at Al Raya, and it's 40. And also, if we do buy vegetables or fresh fruit, we get them at the fruit stalls. They have a lot of those, or just vendors selling them on the street. A lot of people here are farmers.
We do grocery shopping. We go to the supermarket, which isn't so super compared to some of the supermarkets in the States. So we're here now just getting some of our grocery shopping done inside the supermarket. This is the supermarket on the east bank of Luxor. This is about as big as it gets for Egyptian supermarkets. This is actually one of the best ones here in Luxor. This would be a typical smaller sized basic marketplace that has everything you need. And so we travel to the east bank to Al Raya. There also 40 is another market on the east bank where we pick up some of the things we need.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, you kind of stop at different stores for what you need. Just like Al Raya, it's like if you would call it this, it would be like an expat supermarket, because they have some of like the more common like household items, as to whether there's like a little corner market named Surani, and that just kind of has like the super basic pantry items. So it does cost us more when we do have to go to the big grocery store, which we go to like once or twice a week if we don't stock up as well. So even just to travel to go buy food, it can be a little bit expensive.
How does the price compare shopping at, say, grocery stores in the States to purchasing our groceries here in Luxor?
I know a big thing right now because of the war in Ukraine is that inflation is a big problem in America. And it was a big problem back then, even before the war, for us to purchase food every week, because it would be about 300 USD for 3 people every week to eat, healthy food. But we didn't buy a lot of food either. It was just, the basic meals. And here we spend about $60 to $80 a week, just to stock up our fridge. So
almost a third of the cost in America, we're doing our grocery shopping here.
Yes.
Although it seems though we're eating a little less, we're losing a lot of weight, which could be a benefit. But it is a bit of a struggle for a health conscious person to eat here, especially with, the concerns regarding vegetables and stuff like that there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about eating out, because we're not only buying food for the house, but we're also eating out. What do expats do in terms of where do you go to eat?
I think, most expats just stick to, what they can find on TripAdvisor, like the reviews of good restaurants or maybe word of mouth. And there's a couple good restaurants here that most of the expats go to, which is Wolf Restaurant, Mohammed Cafe, the Lantern Room, just to name a few. Others are escaping me, but they have really good, clean, safe food.
So it's significantly cheaper for us to eat out as opposed to in the States. Here, we're gonna spend the equivalent of $15 to $20 USD, and we can literally feed all 3 of ourselves several courses with drinks at a lot of the restaurants we go to, which are some of the best you can possibly eat at. Egypt isn't exactly known for its delicacy. It's about as good as it's gonna get in Egypt with some things. But for you, say as a Mexican American, how does the food compare? You're used to living in California with Mexican food. What's it like here in Egypt?
I mean, it's been horrible. I'm really culture sick. I'm used to having spicy food every single day. I don't really like sugar. Sugar's a big thing here. The spicy food, the only way I could get my fix here is like they have bags of chips that are have spice in it. They are technically supposed to be spicy, but it's not the same. It doesn't taste the same as the spicy back home. But
it seems like the major difference here in Egypt is when they say spicy, they're just referring to actual spices that go in food, whereas when you live in America and California, spicy means hot.
yeah, yes, exactly. So that's one thing that I'm really, really missing. And I really would like to have a big plate of nachos or even a burrito. Yeah, just like I think, too, the big thing is that a lot of the foods here that people might not think about is that they taste very different, just like the beef. The beef does not taste like beef that you would try like in America or in any other country that I know of anyways. I mean, it's like imposter beef. And then also the eggs. The eggs are like schmegs. They're not even
Just
eggs.
don't taste the same.
Yeah, the eggs are not eggs. They're schmegs. They don't. They don't taste the same. They taste like this weird, bland, like runny egg. And I think that's just how we were talking about. It might be the diet of the chickens. It depends on what the animal's eating, the water they're drinking.
So yeah, much like the States, it's two options. You're either eating in or you're eating out. If you're eating out, it's a matter of knowing where to eat, and it's relatively not that expensive at all. Some of the places that we mentioned already, you're paying the equivalent of $15 USD for all three of us to have a full, complete meal, multiple courses with drinks. It's really inexpensive to eat out. On the other hand, there's also the shopping aspect, going to the supermarkets, which again, significantly cheaper than the States. On average, we're spending about $60, $70, $80 a week to do grocery shopping for the entire week. The thing about grocery shopping is it requires travel, and that brings us to another one of the questions people have. How do we get around?
The different modes of transportation that we have in Luxor are tuk-tuks.
The tuk-tuks are another modality of driving. They are these vehicles that can take you literally across the village for the equivalent of $1.50 to $2 USD. And then there's also walking. You can walk to get places as well.
Motorboats, carriages, and taxis. We already knew someone through a mutual friend, and so now we have him as a reliable driver, but you could also just walk out and hail a taxi driver.
You really can't go more than 5 minutes without finding someone who speaks English that could give you a ride or will give you a ride. For the most part, the rides here are pretty much safe. And then if you want to go from where we live in the West Bank to the East Bank, you can take a motorboat across the River Nile, which is a lot faster and a lot less expensive. Again, maybe 30 Egyptian and you're on the other side of the Nile. Of course, you can always walk. On the east bank of the Nile, you have horse and carriage. So there's a lot of different options for getting around. If we were to have a private driver take us from the west bank where we live to the east bank, say to go grocery shopping, what does it cost us?
About 400 Egyptian pounds from the west bank to the east bank and back. And that could be also for the whole day, and that's about $20 USD, give or take. I think the things that we spend the most money on are food and rides. Rides could be somewhere between like $20 or $40 a week. That depends on what we're doing. If we're going out, I think some of the cons are you have to adjust to the food. adjust to a new way of life, you know, doing your laundry, daily living, where you're going to buy your supplies, finding places to shop, things like of that nature, getting electronics, things you don't really think about. You know, how are you going to get around? But ultimately that's all worked out, but it's kind of just like this hump that you have to get over. You know, it might seem like frustrating at first, but slowly and surely those things always get resolved.
One of the other downsides about living in Luxor is the lack of resources. In a lot of ways, it's really like living in the 19th century or the 1800s. We live in, again, a predominantly agricultural farming community. There's no Best Buys, there's no Walmarts. I can't just go to a Walgreens up the street. Resources are limited. If you want a lighter, you're going on an adventure just to find a lighter, you know? And then the selection of products, it's not the same quality that you find in America. So you really have to make the best of what it is that you have. And it's really also a poignant reminder of, you know, materialistic needs, and kind of keeps you in check and humbles you in a way to kind of live a more simpler lifestyle.
I think, you know, just a simpler way of life in America. We're always just pressured to achieve, to work, to make money, and money. It's materialism. Here's a simpler way of life where you actually just get to take in, you know, every single day, spend more time with your family, and you don't have a lot of the stressors, kind of what they say in America, the catchphrase or the phrase keeping up with the Joneses or whatever. You know, we're not doing that here, so that's a big load off of us.
Yeah, no keeping up with the Kardashians.
Yes, no keeping in, yeah.
Hello. Massery.
The good thing about living here, aside from saving money, is just being able to live around these communities, you know, the local Egyptians, you know, getting to know them, getting to meet their families, and again, goes back to like the simpler way of life.
You know, not all that glitters is gold. There are a lot of negative aspects to being an expat living here in Egypt as well. You know, when we're speaking, it's not from the experience of the local Egyptians who live here, it's from the experience of transplants, foreigners, expats from America that have relocated and are living in Egypt. And so with that comes a whole different dynamic. When we go out anywhere and everywhere, whether it's to the grocery store, whether it's to the temples, someone is going to see us as non-local. Regardless of the fact that we've been living here, they're going to immediately assume we're tourists, because Egypt is a predominantly tourist-driven economy, you know, and of course you have the fact that the pandemic just struck, and now the war, there's been some people that are less inclined to come to Egypt. So there's not as much money, and so the local Egyptians are starving and hungry for money, and so you get a lot of unwanted help, unnecessary help. Now, people might question, what does that mean? It's good to be helped, but when you say no, it's never enough. It's relentless, especially when you go to the East Bank. It's a constant hustle, which can be draining. It can have its impact on you, but overall, you know, the local Egyptian people are really friendly. Everyone's gonna invite you into their home for a cup of tea or chai or, you know, some food. I feel safer here in Egypt than I do in America.
Another thing, you know, having our daughter along with us on this experience is giving her a rich cultural background, something that, you know, even if a kid doesn't appreciate it as much right now, she does have her moments where she's like in awe of the situation and goes off and explores herself. You know, even if they don't appreciate it as much now, they will appreciate all that knowledge, all that experience years later along the road, and it's that memory that she could keep with her, you know, these awesome experiences she had with her family living abroad in another country.
Arabic بصل توم بصل
توم
توم بصل توم ده خاص خاص.
Yeah. Khas and Gerge. The Gagila.
So as an expat or foreigner living in Luxor, how has it been immersing yourself in the culture with the local people? How have they treated you?
I mean, they treated me fairly well. They've been respectful. Same thing, you know, you give respect, you earn respect type of thing. But for the most part, they're very respectful people, very friendly people for the most part again.
Not all that glitters is gold. I mean, there's definitely the pros, but there's also the cons of living in Luxor. And of course, we've had some unwanted home guests the first week moving here. We found the scorpion on the stairs. There's also been the spiders, the lizards.
Yeah, I think I had forgotten about the scorpion, but when you found the scorpion that night, I just had so much anxiety afterwards, even though I've been warned from my Mexican mother to always look out for scorpions in your shoes and your pockets. I don't think you could ever quite prepare for the day when you actually run across, you know, into a scorpion, right? So that was scary. Thankfully, we haven't seen one again since then, and we found actually Jackie found some big spiders. Our cat Jackie, she runs around, tries to eat the big spiders. They're really fast, and the big spiders are an arachnophobic's nightmare. They would be done if they saw these spiders. They're huge, humongous, but from what we heard, they're not dangerous, so that's a plus. The geckos is kind of like a balance in the ecosystem, right? The geckos are eating the bugs and mosquitoes that annoy the crap out of us, but on the other hand, they're leaving their droppings everywhere, contaminating our furniture, just shitting on our existence, basically. Can you say that? Yeah, and even though I love, you know, I try to love all of humanity, I'm on my brink with them. Jackie, we found it. Actually, Jackie came into our home, and she came in. Jackie knows who's talking about her. Here in another side of Egypt is that if you want a pet, there's pets galore. They'll come right to you. And Jackie actually came into our home, and ever since then, she's been a part of the family. But she also hunts. She's tried to eat the geckos, and every time she tries to eat the geckos, we stop her because her breath smells like, you know, lizard breath, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah, so I think we covered a lot of the bare essentials for what it's like, at least for us, living in Luxor. If there's something we missed or something more you want to know, please feel free to ask a question in the comments down below. We'll try to answer as many of those as we can, and who knows, your question may become the subject of a future video. Now, we do have all this footage from all the places that we've been traveling over the last 4 months. We have a whole mini series that's going to be part of this vlog series going to the Siwa Oasis and many of the temples we visited and will explore in the future. So do stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment below, and we'll see you in the next one.